Greetings and salutations. This is Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we're going to ask an awful lot of questions. You can also become a member of the show or support the show at thebittertruth.info, where we have a Patreon page, and we also have swag that you can buy to make your life better. So if you don't want to subscribe to a Patreon thing, and I understand that because I hate subscribing to things too, you can do that and support the show, because as you probably figured out, if you listen to the show on a regular basis, we don't have advertising because I'm no fun at parties. My guest tonight is a two-time senatorial candidate in the state of Texas, Sema Hernandez, and she is nothing but awesome. And she's been on a few times and has talked about various topics, including getting screwed by the DNC, but she's not bitter. Sema, how are you?
Well, the good thing is I wore protection. So there's that.
Well, that's awesome. So what's going on?
Oh, no, just really glad to be here and talk with you today about the state of our politics and what our options are besides a duopoly. I think we were talking about third parties recently. Yeah.
So talk to me. Okay. So you said a couple of things on Twitter, and you hadn't been on a while. And, you know, in the interest of transparency, you know, you and I are pretty good friends, so we talk all the time. But you know, when I saw the couple of things on Twitter, I was thinking, okay, that's interesting. So talk to me about how inefficient it is to vote for a third party, because what's your theory?
Well, just to be clear, we are friends. We don't always agree on things.
That's fine. I agree with a lot of my friends.
That's cool, because then our friendship would be really freaking boring.
Right.
If we agreed on everything.
That's right.
So to be clear, there are third party options, right? And I think my disagreement, I know my disagreement is that right now the viable third party option that's being touted around by so many of the left Twitter is Movement for a People's Party.
Right.
And that is where I draw the line, because I know that specific group is not an actual party. They're a political action committee. They're a PAC. And there is a lot to be said. And in fact, I'll probably only say one thing about this specific group that is saying that we need to rally the troops and start getting people on the ballot and support MPP, yada, yada, yada. Well, they've tried this before. It's the same actors, the same people. They've changed their name from Draft Bernie to MPP.
You mean the National People's Party?
No. Movement for a People's Party was Draft Bernie.
Right. Nick Brana and all those guys.
Right. All those guys.
Right.
And now they're doing it again.
Right.
And they're trying to convince people to donate to them because they're going to be the viable third option. And my argument is there already is viable third options. It's just that there isn't candidates that are representing those specific parties on the ballot.
Okay.
So if you're going to vote for a third party, make sure that you're on the ballot. Make sure that that party that you're talking about building is on the fucking ballot.
Right. But 20 years ago, the Green Party was nowhere. And in 2016, they were on 48 states. Jill Stein was on 48 states, and they have a budget of $250,000 with 3 staffers. So who's to say the People's Party can't do the same thing?
Oh, they can, but they've had since 2017 to do it, to get on at least one state ballot, and they haven't done so.
Okay, but what are the options? The Democrats or the Republicans?
Democrats, Republicans, Greens, Libertarians, Independents.
Okay, first of all, the first two you said are not options. There are no Democrats.
That's the one option.
There are no Democrats. There are no Republicans. Let me tell you something. We voted for Joe Biden. I didn't vote for him. He's a prick. But we voted for Joe Biden last year. And this year, his first 100 days, which I've been keeping count, because I knew he was going to be blue Trump.
Yes.
And I knew that just like goddamn Obama, everyone would go to sleep and go, oh, we got a Democrat. Everything's okay. And no one would protest the wars. And no one would protest. BLM's gone. BLM's Casper. And we got police shootings up the ass. Still, the BLM, nowhere to be found. They bought houses. They got deals with the CW. They're gone. They're Casper the Friendly Ghost. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, and let me just, because I don't have a great memory, especially I've been drinking today. So like since day 2 of his presidency, we saw him send more troops into Syria to guard stolen oil and stolen wheat. Also on day 2, he doubled down on Venezuela, committing the $30 million that Trump committed to in the last COVID bill, right?
Yep.
To give to Guaido again, who's, by the way, under investigation with the FBI for stealing $90 million from the last 3 things we gave him. Okay. Biden's bombing Syria again. Oh, by the way, he just in July, he bombed Somalia 3 times in 2 weeks. Why? No fucking clue. But we're bombing Tijuana again. That's what I call it. We're bombing Tijuana because it's Somalia, because they are such a threat to national interest. He backed off the public option, campaign promise. He backed off police reform, campaign promise, gave $2 billion to the Capitol Police to expand into a national spy network, because what the country needs, again, is a national spy network. He backed off $15 minimum wage because I guess Joe Biden should have run for parliamentarian and not president, because apparently the parliamentarian kicks fucking ass in this country. Yeah, a lot of power. Whereas when the Republicans had the House and the Senate, they fired the parliamentarian who didn't play ball with them and got another guy for $175,000 a year to do what they said. Backed off big pharma legislation, $2,000 checks. Fuck you. We give you $1,400 plus Trump $600. That's their weird math. No UBI, no Medicare for all, no student debt forgiveness, even though we just spent 20 years in goddamn Afghanistan. Just gave another $20 billion to the war budget. Just spent another $100 billion on 600 nukes, which, to be fair, was an Obama thing, because Obama committed $1 trillion over 10 years to buy more nukes, because Obama said, we didn't have enough new nukes. These are your Democrats, by the way. These are your Democrats. And by the way, if you're voting for a goddamn Democrat, you're a fucking Republican, by the way. So when you tell me Republican Democrat is an option, it is not, because they're murderers and thieves and crapheads. I fucking hate them. So screwing up the Iran deal, Biden is screwing up the Iran deal, which Trump screwed up. And Biden got that deal under President Nobel, which I mean by President Obama, right?
Yeah.
Expanded NATO into Iraq because somebody missed geometry geology that day. Pushed the exit for Afghanistan to 9/11, which pissed the Taliban off, because we made a deal last year. By the way, when Trump made that deal last year, he expanded the security contracts with all the independent security agencies. We have 18,000 security guys in there, independent contractors. Kids in cages, now they're called facilities. They're being kept with zero press access, still building the border wall. And he kicked over 200 families out of their homes through eminent domain to build the border wall that Trump started. But this is Biden. People are dancing in the streets for this motherfucker, but I'm supposed to be happy that he's doing this Republican shit. Okay, so saber-rattling Russia, saber-rattling China, leaving ships in the South China Sea that Trump put in there 3 years ago. Selected a right-wing cabinet. I'm sorry, like Lloyd Austin, he's a black man who happened to be a crazy Iraq war general and worked at Raytheon as a board member. Trump had a crazy Iraq war general, and then he quit. And then he had the Raytheon board member Mark Esper to be the replacement for Mad Dog Mattis. And they called him Mad Dog because he was a crazy person. But now we got one black guy who comprises both of those people, a crazy guy and a Raytheon board member. Yay, but he's black. We hang a rainbow flag on the Raytheon building. And I'm supposed to be expecting, I'm expected to be said that that's okay. And I've ranted for a minute. Continue. Now tell me why I should vote for a goddamn Republican or a fucking Democrat.
Well, hold on. I think that the initial conversation is, what are the options? When you look at the individual candidates, of course, the individual candidates and whatever they stand for, I'm not arguing at all with the points that you're making, just to be clear, because I 100% agree with the shitty options that we have as candidates. Now, as the parties that are on the ballot, that's where I believe the discussion was going to go. Because again,
but it's part of it. What am I voting for?
No, it is. Absolutely.
This is what I got. This is what I got. What I rattled off right now is what I have. Yeah, because people were too chicken shit to vote third party, and they voted for goddamn Joe Biden. By the way, ignoring his record, people fought with me. I lost friends over Kamala Harris's shitty record because I called it out, and Joe Biden's shitty record. Well, he's better than no, he's not better than Trump. He's not better than Trump.
Same thing.
Same fucking thing. And by the way, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they have more blood on their hands than Donald Trump ever had. Joe Biden has blood on his hands. Crime bill, gutting Glass-Steagall, every war he voted for. Antony Blinken, his fucking Secretary of State, was his assistant. when he was in the Senate and as a VP and agreed with every fucking pro-war thing that we had ever done in this country. People bitch about Afghanistan. Why isn't Bush in fucking jail? He's dancing with goddamn Ellen. But please tell me about these options that I have.
Oh, there's no disputing what you said. Everything that you said is 100% factual.
Sure.
We agree on that.
Fair enough.
We just happen to disagree on the fundamental principles of how parties get on the ballot and what is considered a viable third party.
Okay.
Now, I ran as a Democrat. Now,
I know you did.
I do not want the Republican or Democrat Party, whatever the fuck they're, a duopoly, one party, right, to taint me or my campaign because I decide to run as a Democrat. Running as a Democrat doesn't mean that I automatically become like the machine, because I am the antithesis of the machine, just running under a vehicle that guarantees me a spot on the ballot to get on stage and challenge the corporate stooges that are also running as Democrats that are funded by the same Republicans and Democrat donors.
Right.
I have to use the vehicle that's available for me that will allow me the most airtime.
Okay.
And won't be challenged in court. Now, with other parties that are on the ballot, let's talk about Texas. There is the Green Party, there's a Libertarian Party, and you can run as a fucking independent. No big deal. In other states, you either have Republican or Democrat. The election laws are so different on how to get ballot access.
Right.
You either have to pay or you have to gather signatures. And I think it was in 2018 or 2019 when Governor Greg Abbott finally allowed the Green Party to become a viable party that gets on the ballot without having to collect any more signatures.
But that was through a lawsuit, though.
Right.
That was through a lawsuit run by the Libertarians, incidentally.
Damn.
Yeah,
See, I didn't know that. That's news to me.
I know because the guy that ran for Senate for the Libertarian Party in 2018 actually sued the state because he and his buddies had some money, and they went against what the state came up with because the Dems and the Republicans were afraid of the Greens and the Libs and everyone else. So the Libertarians took it on themselves to sue the state. They won, got an injunction on that law, and then the Ken Paxton, asshole attorney general that we have here, decided to not follow it and said, I dare you to sue me again. They sued him again in 19 and won. Right. And that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. So that's how they got on the ballot.
And they weren't running to free up the Libertarians. They were running to free up third parties, period. Yeah. Because the law was designed to fuck third parties in Texas.
Yeah. And I will tell you 100%, I am for third parties. I'm just not okay with a organization calling themselves MPP, Movement for a People's Party, misleading their followers and donors, saying that they are a party, and they're not a party.
But they're already on the ballot in 3 states for the midterms. So like, why can't they be as viable as anybody?
Are you saying MPP is on the ballot in 3 states?
In 3, yeah, so far.
They have candidates already running?
They got like the congressional candidates running in 3 states right now.
Or they applied for access, but they have to meet the quota of getting signatures in different states.
That's probably the case. I mean, I'm thinking that I think, as far as I know, they've completed that process in 3 states.
Because it is my knowledge that they have not.
Okay. Now,
I can be corrected, and that's fine. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's cool. But what is going on now is there are this movement for a third party that isn't in every state, that is misleading. There is no criteria. There's no structure. And the structure that they did come up with recently allows for super delegates, much like the Democratic Party did. So how is this specific organization going to be the antithesis of the duopoly, or more specifically the Democratic Party?
Well, if they're
operating the same way.
But if they have super delegates, fuck them. But I'm addressing your initial comments when I saw you on Twitter a couple weeks back, when you were saying that they're tricking you, or whoever's tricking you, to like go into to vote for a third party is like tricking you to be ineffective. And I think that's not correct. If you don't vote for the National People's Party, I don't give a shit. But the Greens and the Libertarians, by the way, I have more in common with the Libertarians than I do with the Republicans and Democrats. There's like 3 things with the Libertarians that I agree with. Right, that I would have a Libertarian president in 10 seconds. Right, I might not get Medicare for all from those guys. Well, I might not get a UBI, but I'll get us fuck out of those wars for sure.
So,
right?
Which specific tweet are you talking about?
You had a tweet a few weeks back where you said something like, "If you're voting for a third party or another organization, it's the duopoly's way of tricking you into being ineffective. Something like that. Do you remember that? Does that make sense?
No.
Okay.
I would need to find it so that I can comment further because it's been a while.
I should have pulled that up because, you know, I was, that's what got me like, hey, you need to come on. You need to talk about this shit. Right.
Okay. So
because here's the thing, like, so really quick as a background. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Lincoln, 1854, the Republican Party gets started. Right. And everyone kind of forgets that the original name of the Democratic Party was the Democratic Republican Party. Thomas Jefferson ran as that. Washington was the only independent that ever won candidacy or presidency because George Washington ran as an independent. He didn't believe in parties. And his State of the Union, when he left, like that last address, he said, if y'all doing this party shit, we're going to be sorry. Right. So he split, you know, and Adams and all these guys were into their parties. So there's the Whigs and everybody, Federalist guys, whatever. So the Democratic Republican Party was the Democratic Republican Party until about the early 1800s when they dropped the Republican and became the Democratic Party. So for 40 odd years, it was just simply the Democratic Party. And then in 1854, a bunch of pissed off abolitionists who were Democrats and pissed off Whigs who were abolitionists and et cetera, decided to form the Republican Party. And the Republican Party had a single issue, and that was getting rid of slavery. And they started running some guys, 1856, 1858, Lincoln ran for Senate, got his ass kicked, but he ran for Senate. And then in 1860, the Republicans had nobody else. And they thought, we'll run Lincoln. You know, he has high water pants and a top hat, and he's a weird looking dude, but he speaks good. Maybe he'll, you know, get the maybe he'll win. The 1860, the Republicans took the White House and the entire Congress. They abolished slavery, right? And the numbers were this. So by the time Lincoln won, and he did not win with a plurality, he was like the Bill Clinton of the day. He won with 39% of the vote. The Southern Democrats won with 18% of the vote. The Northern Democrats won with 29% of the vote. And the Constitutionalist Party won with had 12% of the vote. So Lincoln won the presidency with 39% of the vote. And they were a regional party. And at the time when the country wasn't 50 states, they were only in about 9 states. So with the Electoral College, how many states do we need? Right. And so it's like, okay, fine. You want to bitch about the People's Party? Fine. But it's not dissuading anybody and if it does dissuade anybody from voting for a fucking Democrat or Republican, who cares? I'm going to vote for murderers and thieves again. The fuck do I care if Kamala Harris wins re-election? She's a fucking Nazi cop. And I'm done. So you can continue.
So I was trying to find the tweet that you were referring to see what I had said. And I think I did respond with at least the Greens are on the party, for fuck's sake, right? And to understand the response I gave, because I remember the response I gave. Okay. Just don't remember the context of the tweet. Okay.
Fair enough.
But I think in that time, and I'm still kind of in that space of when the left is bickering and bitching and tearing the progressives down that are in Congress. And I don't agree with all the progressives.
Because the progressives are not progressives. They're fucking Republicans. AOC is a goddamn Republican. Ro Khan is a fucking Republican. That's why you voted for fucking the Capitol Police and the goddamn war that we're in. And they're cool with Palestine? We're going to defer to fucking leadership. Fuck you. I'm sorry. You're a fucking Republican.
No, you're a
fucking Republican. These people are not progressives at all.
Do not apologize, because there are a lot of things, and I have a lot of issues with the way that they go about things and the way that they just provide cover.
They're murderers. They cover issues is them. Like, I want Italian food and you want Mexican food. I like romantic comedies, but you want to see Star Wars. That's issues. The goddamn Democratic Party are fucking Republicans, and the Republicans went batshit insane. They're murdering this country. We're going to have more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2050. And Biden's like, we need an incremental response to pollution. You fucking twat. And this is what I'm supposed to vote for reasonably? I'll vote for a third-party guy who's not on any fucking ballot at all out of conscience before I vote for these motherfuckers. But continue.
Abe, I don't disagree with what you're saying. And to that point is that I don't agree with everything that the progressives do in Congress.
They do nothing in Congress.
Well, some of them do. Some of them do.
Okay, let me do this. And I hate to sound like I'm older than you. I don't want to pull the older card.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm willing to learn. Go ahead.
Hang on. So for a progressive to not vote for something, to claim present or just vote against it is not fucking politics. They have enough leverage to block every goddamn bill that Boozy Pelosi puts through. They can sit on every fucking bill. It's 6 of them because there's not that big of a majority in the House, and they don't fucking do it because they're too busy posing on Vanity Fair and Rolling Stone with Mama Bear and talking about how great she is, Mama Bear. She's the original Democrat. No, she's a fucking whore. She's a goddamn lousy, lying piece of shit thief who's worth $100 million from stealing from Congress the last 30 years. And I'm supposed to sit there and take this as an acceptable option for my vote. This is not politics. For Rashida Tlaib to vote present, and for AOC or Rashid or what's her face, the Sudan chick, to vote present, but they're like, but they won't get a block together to block a bill to support Israel. That is not an option for me. These people are fucking murderers. You look at all their videos when they ran for office, all the shit they were saying, AOC especially. If I'm a one-term person, who cares? I can do one term with people taking 10 years. And what'd she do? She went in there, first day of the office. You remember when AOC won election?
Do you remember it was on my birthday. Yes.
Okay. You remember that? So she goes into Nancy Pelosi's office with the Sunrise Movement. Remember that shit? And then she's like, remember she's tweeting all the freshman Congress stuff with a bunch of lobbyists?
Yep.
That lasted 10 minutes. Then they took her Soprano style and they got her in the back room with rubber hoses and they got her mind right because by March of 2019, she's posing on Rolling Stone and Vanity Fair with Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Nancy Pelosi, and they have their arms folded, all Charlie's Angels looking. We're the new squad. And what do? Goddamn nothing. Jimmy Dore tried to get a Medicare for all, force the vote to threaten Pelosi's speakership, and they fought him. They fought him with lies. Joe Biden had a bankruptcy law in 2005. It took 4 times to go to the floor of the House. 4 times. What was the excuse of the squad? Well, if we waste our vote, then we can't get $15 minimum wage. Okay, fine. What happened? Oh, the parliamentarian said no. So these cocksuckers are who I'm supposed to vote for? So please tell me with a straight face who I'm supposed to vote for, because I can't vote for a Republican or fucking Democrat.
You can vote for whomever you want as long as they're on the fucking ballot.
Okay, fine. The
and
Greens
that's
are on the,
my point.
Okay,
that's my point.
Your tweet was vague. And it didn't say that. Your tweet made it sound like any third party vote was wrong.
Again, I don't recall the context of that specific tweet. I do recall my response that at least the Greens are on the fucking ballot. And that was in reference to the so-called movement or interfighting with the left on Twitter, fighting over who's leftist, who's not a leftist, canceling the minor block that we have that isn't even organized enough, like you said, to push or force the
because
vote
they're
on
not.
something.
The progressives.
I understand.
They're not.
I do. My disagreement, and I will stick by this, is that this fight for a political action committee that is charading around as a party that isn't even on the ballot in states to get candidates on there is disingenuous, and it smears the rest of the people like myself who ran as a Democrat, because I'm not the Pelosi Democrat. I am not the Chuck Schumer Democrat. I am going to fuck those people over kind of Democrat.
This is why they.
That's me. But that taints everyone else who is genuinely running on these policy issues, because you know me.
I know
people know me, and I'm not a bitch, and I don't bend over for any kind of power.
This is why you can't run as a Democrat. This is why Nina Turner just got her ass kicked. Okay, because AIPAC, by the way, Chantel Brown was backed by AIPAC.
I understand, and
little dark secret. The Clintons
they
came
back
in.
Everyone that is on their side.
Yeah, and the Clintons came in and they backed Shontel Brown, right? Nina Turner didn't stand a chance. And she's one of the most popular progressives in the country next to AOC. True story.
Right. Yeah.
And I get her passion. I get her heart. But as soon as she says she was running for Democrat, she lost me. Because I'm like, number one, you're going to get your ass kicked because they're not going to let you win. Number two, if you get in there, you will be co-opted because there's not a single progressive, not Ro Khanna, not Rashida Tlaib, not Ilhan Omar, not Jamal Bowen. None of them have done what they said they were going to do. None of them. One or two votes here and there, against something here and there. But like the old Lyndon Baines Johnson days of taking somebody aside and threatening to have them primaried, that shit's gone. And Chuck Schumer is a gigantic fucking twat because he will never take anybody aside because he's bought by the same corporations that those people who ran against their relative incumbents fought against.
So I'm going to push back on that because
Please.
no, that shit isn't gone. That shit is still there, but that's a well-oiled shitty machine that is run by.
So you can't run as a Democrat.
No, I can. I can run as a Democrat.
No, you can't. Listen,
but I can run on my own merits.
And what happened the last two times you ran?
Last two times I got screwed over.
I love you to pieces, but let me tell you, what happened.
I got screwed over.
I don't need to tell you. You drove back. I can speak English. You drove all over the state.
Yes.
You spent your first campaign against Beto O'Rourke. He spent like a bazillion, 11 billion.
4.1 or 4.6 million.
So, okay, I thought it was 11 billion, but okay, so 4.6 million is less than what I thought it was. And you spent what, $3,000?
About $4,000.
And you got nearly half the votes he got.
Correct. And the party stacked the deck against me. I know.
Uh-huh. And then last year when you ran, and last year when you ran in the primary of 2020, they didn't just stack. They were afraid of you. So they got like 11 fucking people to run, like has-beens, also rans, people I never fucking heard of. And then when I looked them up, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're fucking Republican 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And then these quasi-Mexican chicks that barely speak Spanish. Right. And they married some white guy and became a lawyer. And then all of a sudden now they're running as, no, yo soy el Latina. El Latina? I'm sorry. I thought it was La Latina, you fucking prick. But okay. Continue with your fucking bullshit DCCC lie against the real progressive, and they fucked you again. So how can you possibly think you're going to run as a Democrat and not get fucked again? These people are assholes. They're murderers. They're thieves. They are paid for by corporate America. But continue.
Oh, I totally agree with you. But what do I get when I walk away? Because that's what they want me to do. That's what they want other people to do, is to walk the fuck away.
You don't walk away. You take your popularity. You take your popularity because you're popular in your region. You take your popularity and you beat the shit out of the congressperson that is there, the incumbent Democrat. And you run as a green, and they will vote for you.
Let me tell you what happened last time somebody actually went in as a green. They were challenged by the Democratic Party and they were bumped off the ballot. They spent more time in the courtroom trying to stay on the ballot than actually campaigning, and they didn't get the votes that they needed.
Okay, but you know what the difference between you and whoever that person was? Do you know who the Beatles are?
I know who the Beatles are.
Okay, so there was this one band called the Joneses. You ever heard of them?
Never heard of them.
Of course not, because they weren't the Beatles. Okay, so that's that. So
that's my point, though, is like, do not write off everyone that's running as a Democrat just because you're pissed at those who are ruining it for the rest of us.
But here's the result. You shall know them by their fruits. Right? What have I seen?
I got really plump fruits, man.
No, that's a Bible verse. What you shall know them by their fruits. I don't give a shit for AOC's tweets or Bernie's tweets. What are the results? Joe Manchin is blocking every fucking bill he can to get his way.
Yep.
Bernie Sanders hasn't done jack and shit for anybody. He talks a lot. And I bitch at him on Twitter all the time. He's like, well, it's time we get a Green New Deal. I go, yeah, what does President My Boss say? Because you're taking marching orders from Joe fucking Biden. You are nothing now. Bernie Sanders is a twat. AOC is a fucking bitch. Ro Khanna, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all of them. What's her face? The nurse who's now the head of the progressives in the House. She was a nurse who ran on Medicare for all. She can't even get arrested. How do you expect to run as a Democrat and not get co-opted if you win? 3 terms, you get a pension. plus speaking fees and book deals. So quick, like Beto O'Rourke, he's got book deals up the ass. He got speaking fees up the ass. He did 3 terms. He's got a nice 6-figure retirement for life, right? He doesn't need to do anything. So how is running as a Democrat going to help anybody?
Well, you have to win first. You have to win, and you have to stick to your principles. You're only as strong as your principles. You're only as weak if you don't have any. I don't even know what the phrase is for that anymore, really. But I can guarantee you that there are a few people like myself who, if they want to run, if they're motivated to run, if they're going to run as a Democrat, that hold the same principles and stick true to those principles, are not going to get fucked over the way others have. But it's that rhetoric of fuck Democrats that ruins it for people that are genuine people like myself, who stuck to her principles and fought tooth and nail and hasn't left. Well, true, but I'm still a pain in the ass to the party.
Yeah, until you're in there. And then what happens? So far, I'm batting 1,000 with these motherfuckers. I'm batting 1,000. And in 2016, when 2015, when I chose to buy into the Bernie train, because I knew who he was, I knew who he was. I knew his record. 30 years in Congress fighting. I'm fighting. Never won a fucking fight. Joe Manchin wins fights. Kristen Sinema wins fights all the time. Joe Manchin wins fights all the time. You want coal in West Virginia? Joe Manchin is your guy.
So what is the solution if those candidates that are representing a party aren't on the ballot or able to get on the ballot? What if the left isn't organized enough to even get ballot signatures because they're too busy fighting on Twitter? Well,
quit being precious and get organized. But to tell me that me voting for a Green or People's Party person or whatever is making me ineffective, that's disingenuous. Because
if your candidate is on the ballot, and
I'll
you
vote
voted
for my mother before I wrote in Gloria La Riva in Texas, who was not on the ballot in Texas. She was only in 20 states.
There were people who wrote in my name.
Oh, I know that.
There were.
I wrote your name in for the Senate,
and I appreciate it.
I couldn't vote for the piece of shit that they picked. Like, fuck you. And the Greens had nobody, and the Libertarians had some guy that I wasn't crazy about. So I wrote you in, and then Gloria. But my point is, I will write in Gloria La Riva before I vote for Joe Biden, who wrote the crime bill, who gutted Glass-Steagall, creating the economic mess we've had last 20 years. Right, voted for every war that we're in. We've killed 1 million Iraqis. We've killed 200,000 Afghans. How many civilians in Syria did we kill? Right. There's this guy named Graham Elwood. There's this guy named Graham Elwood that I like quite a bit. He has an analogy. I think I've stolen this the second time. The third time it'll be mine for real. But I'm going to quote him. I'm going to quote him this time. So in 1964, the Japanese sponsored the Olympics. In 1964, they held the Olympics. Could you imagine if in 1964 we were still fighting the Japanese from World War II? The war ended in 1945. 19 years later, the Japanese are having the Olympics. 1972, the Germans are having the Olympics. Almost 30 years later. Could you imagine if we were still fighting the Germans in 1972? Right? But these bullshit wars that we've been in have been nothing but a profit bang for the sponsors of these two parties. It's a one-party system. And the results I have seen, and I'm calming down now. So the results I have seen of these Democrats that ran, and I believed them and gave them money. I gave AOC money. I gave Rashida Tlaib money. She's Palestinian. My dad's Palestinian. Like, shit, she can't be that bad. She gets it, right? And then Trump would let her go see her grandmother, that kind of shit. I was like, you guys are fucked up. She votes pro-Israel shit. So how am I supposed to believe these people once they get into office? If you got into office as a Dem, how am I supposed to believe you would not be co-opted by Chucky the Shoom or Nancy Pelosi or, any other fucking twat that takes you aside and goes, hey, listen, you got to get your mind right. There's speaking fees in it for you, 3 terms, and you got a pension. We're going to get you a book deal with Doubleday and Brown or whoever the fuck, a Latina in the Senate or a Latina, whatever. Like you write your book, you get on Dr. Phil. So Sema, tell me how you wrote the book. And how'd it go? Like, what did you mean when you said you're Latina I didn't understand. Are you like a Latina or Latinx? I don't get what are these kids saying today? How would you explain yourself if you got co-opted down the road?
Well, I can tell you that wouldn't even be an option.
They all said that.
No,
I gave them money.
I understand what you're saying. And I don't disagree with what you're arguing, because a lot of people feel the same way. I feel the same way. But that's not me. That's never been me. I've been offered money up the ass to work for other candidates who I do not believe in, who I do not trust. So if someone were to do that or offer me whatever, I tell them, go fuck yourselves.
So what's the difference?
Go fuck yourselves.
So what's the difference between what you're doing and me telling people to vote their conscience? Because I would rather have people vote their conscience. Listen, if 20 million people, Jesse Ventura in 2020 didn't even announce. He didn't even announce that he was running. He was polling. He was polling at 18%, right?
Yeah.
So if 30 million people had balls in this country in 2016 and voted for Jill Stein, we would not have today's Democratic Party. We would not have been rammed down our throat Joe Biden, which they cheated again to get him the nomination. Kamala Harris, who's the worst attorney general of my lifetime. I grew up in California.
And got 0 delegates.
Got 0 delegates in the primaries, which is the first for a VP. I think the first for a VP person ever. Usually it's like, somebody gets a few delegates. She dropped out before she went to California because she knew she would get her ass kicked. So she dropped out of the race before she went to California, because to get 0 delegates in California, when you've already not gotten delegates anywhere else, she dropped out. But they gave her the backroom speech. She went to the Hamptons, visited with Hillary. She was chosen. She was made. She was a made person. They gave her the VP with a forced presidential candidate whose only bet was, we have a pandemic and Trump is president. My mother could have beat Trump. My mother, without trying, could have beat Trump. That's how bad it was. That's how bad this country is. We are Rome. It is over. So my big contention with all of this is, how am I expected to vote for murderers and thieves again with a straight face and believe that they're going to do something different? You can't change this party from within. The Democratic Party is corrupted. It's bought by the same people who own the Republicans. The only difference is the NRA. Every lobby owns each party equally.
So again, I'm gonna push back only because
please.
I can compartmentalize and see the difference between people and parties. And my argument has been, don't shit on everyone that's running under a certain banner. So if I were to run as a Democrat, I would expect that people who supported me in the past support me now. However, there's this rhetoric that every Democrat is full of shit. Every Democrat is just like the Republican Party.
Because
that's the results, so on and so forth.
Because Sema, the results are there.
Again, but I am not them. The people that I know.
Okay, you know who told me that, by the way? Rashida Tlaib told me that. Ilhan Omar told me that. Ro Khanna told me that. They all said that too. They all said they weren't Hakeem Jeffries.
We are being judged by individuals who, as individuals, are bad people.
But they ran against individuals. Hakeem Jeffries. AOC said she wasn't Hakeem Jeffries. Ilhan Omar said she wasn't Nancy Pelosi. When AOC was running the primaries, that Joe guy in New York who was like 24 years in the Congress, she's like, I'm not him. Joe Crowley. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. In fact,
I'm not AOC, and I am not the sins of those people.
Says you
I
now.
am also not the sins of my mother or my father.
Says you
I
now.
am my own person. And
says
I will
you
say
now.
It tomorrow and the day after that.
Win election, and we'll have this conversation. Win election, and I dare you to come back on my show. Win election, be in the Senate 2 years. I dare you to come back on. You've been on the show 6-7 times. I dare you to come back on when you win election and won't speak to me anymore because you're bought by those motherfuckers and they threaten your kids.
What, that sounds like you're challenging me to run again just to prove you wrong.
Well, run for Congress. I think you'd win the House in a second.
I do believe it. I've seen the numbers, and I've thought about running against my own cousin.
Fine. I don't like your cousin. Whoever your
I don't
cousin
like
is.
him either.
Okay, good. Whoever your cousin is, I don't like him. I like you.
He's okay. I just don't like his politics, which means that he's not a good person in general.
Which is awkward in Thanksgiving. That is at Christmas time. That gets really awkward.
There's that.
Here's a Christmas card. Here's a lump of coal for you.
But in all seriousness, I don't know much about him. I just don't like his politics. I just recently found out he was my cousin, like last year through marriage. And I considered running against him, but that would mean that I'd have to move to where he's at. And I'm not planning on moving out that way. I'm planning on moving a little bit more north.
Fair enough.
So, I just do not want individuals to be judged by bad actors in the party. Like we have to be judged on our own merits.
Listen to me. You're going to have to run as a green. I don't care if you in lawsuits. I don't care what you got to do. Get F. Lee Bailey, get OJ's attorneys. I don't give a shit. Get somebody to represent you. You can't run as a Democrat. Green
is an option because at least they're on the fucking ballot.
Well, run as a libertarian. Run as I don't care what you run as Captain Kangaroo. I don't care. You can't run as a Democrat. I just don't want people wasting their time on something that isn't viable because they're not on the ballot. Okay, but this is my point, and I can't make this point strong enough. But murder is not an option. Thievery and genocide is not an option. It's not an option, but neither is the party that isn't on the ballot. Okay, I can't vote for a fucking murderer. I will write somebody. We can't change the laws until we change the fucking laws. Well, okay, so don't run as a goddamn Democrat because they're murderers and thieves, and they support Israel and they support Afghanistan, and they're cool with us in Iraq, and they give the military-industrial complex $1 gazillion every fucking year. Meanwhile, we have no student debt relief. We got no UBI. We got no Medicare for all, and I'm supposed to accept this as a viable alternative. It's murder. I'm a viable alternative if I'm on the ballot and I support Palestine and I don't support the wars and I don't support. But that's as a constant. Okay, you're dreaming. You're dreaming if you think they're going to let you on the ballot. Okay. Do you remember the polio vaccine? I wasn't alive back then, but okay. Okay, it's called history. Look into it. Like you can get on YouTube and those smarty pants. Fucking millennials. I swear to Christ. Like you guys. Like okay, so there's this thing called YouTube, and you can see all these great videos. I wasn't even born when the polio vaccine happened, by the way. Do you remember somehow? Yeah, I do. Because when I was a kid, they gave us the goddamn polio vaccine because people were and it worked. And it worked. Yes. But you know what Jonas Salk said when they asked him on TV in the 50s? They said, hey, so are you going to patent this? You sold it to the government for $1. And being all glib, he goes, do you patent the sun? That was his attitude. This is to help human beings. I make a good living. I'm cool. They pay me. I'm a doctor. I'm cool. I don't need to make $11 billion. I don't need Jeff Bezos with my cock rocket and fly into space on taxpayers' dollars, right? He was a different guy, right? He was a genuine person who work that was meaningful. And the guys someone took it and fucked him over with it. Well, not him, but they bought into whatever. But when I was a kid, I got that shot for free. When I was a kid in 1968, 69 in kindergarten and first grade, they gave me that shot, the measles shot, the mumps shot, the rubella shot. They gave me all these shots for free. In 2 years, I got like 12 shots for free. They lined us up. I had my little spindly kindergarten arm. And until I was about 20, I had the little gun scar. We all had that. I remember I was going out to school in high school and she had the same gun scar I had. We all had it. And this was like until if you were born in the 60s and you came up in the 70s and 80s, everyone had that little gun scar. It was this little 5-prong, right, with all the shots. And you got it in kindergarten and first grade. It was better than dying and better than being crippled, right? Yeah. So all of that to say that if you're going to try to run as a Democrat, these people are not your friends. They're not going to allow you. Even at Congress, which I believe you can win a House seat like that, they will try to fuck you every way, 9 ways a Sunday. My point is AOC got in there. That's like the polio vaccine. Now it's the AIDS thing. Now it's cancer. They want you living longer and buying the drugs longer. Mm-hmm. You are now in the AIDS vaccine category. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, they were polio, and the Democrats learned their lesson. That will never happen again. You cannot run as a Democrat. Either they will beat you or you will capitulate. But you just said I would win a House seat in an instant. On your name. On your name. But if you run as a Democrat, they will kick your ass and they will have your opponent. They'll bring in the Clintons. They'll bring in AIPAC. They'll listen, you're not Nina Turner. I love you to pieces, but you're not Nina Turner. That woman has national name. Yeah, she does. Right? She got her ass kicked. So does Beto O'Rourke, and he got his ass kicked. Yeah, by Ted Cruz. I know. But he got the nomination, didn't he? Because the DCCC came in right? And they went against you, by the way.
Yes.
They went against you.
They poured money. They poured money to silence our campaign.
Dude, you spent $3,000 and you got like 300,000 votes. And Beto O'Rourke got 46. Okay, Beto O'Rourke got 675,000. Beto O'Rourke got 675,000 votes, and they spent $11 billion. Okay, you spent like $3,000 and you got half the votes he got. Yeah. Fuck, right? Because you were running on real things and they knew you were serious and they didn't.
And I was running on my merits. I wasn't running on the fluff and, skateboards and, trying to be relatable. It's because I was my most honest, genuine self. And that is never going to change whether I win or lose. And when I win, I will not capitulate to power. Okay.
I'll believe it when you say it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm saying right now, I believe you as a human being. Right now, in this moment, I believe you 100%. But if you get the nomination and you win a Senate seat or a congressional seat,
if I run,
if you run, I dare you to come back on this show and talk to me. Because on January 3rd of your first term, if you don't vote for Nancy Pelosi, I will have a heart attack. Because everyone that I've trusted voted for Nancy Pelosi on January 3rd. Last year.
Well, maybe just don't trust me. Maybe I might earn your trust. I don't know.
Well, don't vote for Nancy goddamn Pelosi or the parallel, because she'll be dead by the time you win House seat. She's 80 years old. She'll be fucking dead. If she's not, she's like kept alive on steroids or like Joe Biden on Adderall or whatever. But my point is that if you do win, if you do run again, because I know you're busy, you got other things and you're raising your kids.
Yeah.
But if you do run again, I dare you to come back on this show after January 3rd of your first term, having said, Abe, you're fucking wrong. I voted for...
Eat crow, Abe. Eat crow.
And I'm the best crow eater in the history of ever. I eat crow more than... when I'm wrong, I am wrong. But so far, I'm 58 years old next month. I'm batting 1,000 with this shit. Batting 1,000. I'm almost the ghost.
I would like to just stop the record, okay?
I would love you. I would love you to, because that little Joe Biden first 100 days list that I rattled off earlier. I said this last year when my friends were like, oh my God, no, Joe Biden. Like, watch him be Trump and nothing will change. And every goddamn one of them hate the fact that I throw that in their face every fucking week. They post some fucking Biden shit. By the way, Biden just approved 2,500 drilling contracts in tribal and federal lands, with 6,000 by the end of the year, according to the Associated Press, which is not the YouTube news. It's a real quote unquote press thing, right? And that's Biden. So he's doing more for federal and tribal drilling than Trump did in 4 years, in 1 year.
And how much is this going to be covered up by the fact that we failed in Afghanistan and Biden failed in Afghanistan? This is just going to go right underneath the radar. No one's going to notice.
Well, no one's going to. Here's the thing. This is what pisses me off when a Democrat is in office, because, and ranting aside, I've ranted a lot today. So, but ranting aside,
I hadn't noticed.
I hadn't noticed either. Yeah. And by the way, in the interest of transparency, I've been drinking. So like what pisses me off, and you can laugh out loud. Don't cover your face.
Sorry, okay. I want to hear you. Go ahead.
That's okay. No. Those of you who can't see this, because you're going to get an audio version of this, Sema is laughing her ass off. But what pisses me off is that the Democrats have completely gone to sleep, like they did under Obama. All I see now on Facebook and Twitter is, cookie recipes and my grandkids, right? Whereas when Bush was running things and Iraq and Afghanistan was happening, we had this big protests in front of the White House all the time, anti-war. Obama comes in, except for Cindy Sheehan and Medea Benjamin, everybody was gone. No protests. And if you criticize Obama, they called you a racist. Yep. I'm like, well, gee whiz, didn't he win the Nobel Peace Prize? But aren't we in Libya and Sudan and Somalia and Yemen and right? You're being negative. No, I'm being factual, because if a Republican did that, you'd lose your shit. Biden's first 100 days are just like Trump won the re-election. The only thing that was different was maybe the vaccines, and that was it. And even then, Trump started the vaccines.
I was going to say vaccines were under his administration.
Right. And so all Biden did was just put his foot on the gas and push it through faster. But whatever. It's like, Trump wasn't completely stupid. At the end, he's this vaccine thing is, I guess we better do this. People are dying. And then Biden comes in, and that first 100 days that I just rattled off, it's just like Trump won the election. It's just like Trump won the election. So when people tell me I got to vote for, the lesser of two evils, they're all evil. It's a Republican and a Democrat that has kept us in the Middle East.
But they're on the ballot. And that was my argument.
Well, okay. So Hitler and Satan are on the ballot. What's my alternative? I'll vote.
Is there another third party option on the ballot?
Maybe Moses or Jesus or Buddha or somebody.
Well, if he's running as a Green or Libertarian or a registered party on the ballot with election laws and all behind them, and vote for that person.
Then be more specific, because I don't want you saying that I'm feeding into the duopoly narrative by voting for a third party, because that's not the truth.
That's fair.
That's not the truth. I mean,
I will be more specific.
Whatever your druthers with the People's Party, fine. I mean, I don't believe Nick Brown 100% because he did work for Bernie, right? And
Bernie, he says he worked for Bernie.
No, he did work for Bernie. That's verified. That's fucking verified that he did. He was Bernie's guy for whatever. And him and a bunch of guys walked out in 16, 17 when Bernie's campaign got co-opted by a bunch of corporate Democrat assholes who were telling him to do this. And then finally he capitulated and gave in to Hillary Clinton. And he did exactly what he's been doing since 1990. And this is what people don't like to admit. Bernie Sanders is comfort food. He is not a fighter.
He's a gateway drug.
He's a sheepdog. He's like Muskie or Eugene McCarthy in 1968. When Bobby Kennedy got shot, Eugene McCarthy took all Bobby Kennedy's delegates and said, "Don't worry, I'm going to take this to nomination, and I'm going to fight, and I'm not going to let Hubert Humphrey get the nomination." Because Hubert Humphrey, who's Lyndon Johnson's VP, jumped in super late. He jumped in almost after Bobby Kennedy got shot, right? Which is why we had the 68 Democratic Convention riots, because people were pissed that Eugene McCarthy gave his delegates over to Hubert Humphrey, and Hubert Humphrey got the nomination, and Nixon beat him, right? So all of that to say, this is where we're at now. I mean, it's not that much different. And with superdelegates in the 80s, it's gotten worse. So when you look at the results, like I said, so far my results, I'm batting 1,000. Every progressive that I wanted to believe has lied. They get in there, and like the mafia, they get taken into the back room with rubber hoses, and they get their mind right. Listen, this thing you're gonna do, it's nice for the people, but it's not good for business. You gotta campsite. I mean, you can't. What you said about the thing, and Joe Crowley, I get it. He's an idiot. He's a schmuck, but you can't do this Medicare for all. It's not good for the insurance people. They pay our campaigns. That's what they do. It's the goddamn mob. It's the Jewish mob, the Italian mob. They all sound the same, and that's where we're at, man. So anyway, that's my.
It's a sad state of affairs. It really is.
It is. And
I just do not want these, bad actors, Pelosi and Schumer and, Halliburton and Lockheed Martin to ruin it for those of us who are actually running on principles and our merits. And that's my issue. Okay.
And I'm going to wrap up in a couple of seconds. We went a little long, but to that point though, that's where, regardless of their issues, I will give the People's Party and the Greens, I've given the Greens a million chances. I've given the Libs a few chances. I will give them more chances than I will ever give the Democrats or the Republicans.
Okay. Well, just give individual candidates a chance.
Well, so far, they've all broken. Fredo, you broke my heart.
I'm not Fredo.
I don't know that.
You know that. You know me.
No, I bet you money. Listen, AOC came on Jimmy Dore's show 7 fucking times. I believed her. He believed her. Rashida Tlaib came on his show. He believed her. I believed her. Yeah. Right? You could tell me to my face right now, and then you get faced with a $200,000 a year salary and a nice fat 6-figure residual. If you run 2 terms and win, you're looking at $200,000 a year for the rest of your life, plus benefits, plus speaking deals, plus book deals. This is the Bible, man.
Fucking I'm going to tell you something.
Judas gave it up for 30 pieces of silver, and he watched Jesus walk on water. I defy you to face that kind of temptation and come back to me 5 years from now and be on this show if I'm still alive?
I have been offered the money and I walked away because I'm not afraid of being poor. I am poor. I grew up poor. Poor doesn't frighten me.
Okay.
Being poor doesn't frighten me.
Okay.
And I've walked away from it.
Okay.
And I'm still the person that I am. And I kept my integrity. I didn't sell out. I keep fighting for the issues that I believe in. I continue to fight for the platform I believe in because it's my merit. It's my people. And if that money doesn't buy my entire people out of poverty, out of oppression, I don't fucking want it because I am not for sale.
Well, I'll tell you what. I believe you right now. And I love you as and I love you as a person. And I want you to run for House, fuck the Senate, because it's a lot of your time and you're driving further, by the way.
I am.
Because Congress is a shorter drive. Congress is like teeny weeny time.
If you're not gerrymandered.
Well, yeah. But if you're gerrymandered, the benefit of that is it's a shorter drive.
Well, if you're in District 2 here in Texas, it's like Bart Simpson.
Yeah, it's a square. It's like not even. It's like a rectangle in a big circle. You're fine. So because the Senate, you drove 300,000. You drove a ton of miles, right? Because you were you live in Pasadena, which is by the coast of Texas.
Yes.
And you drove through the state, east, west, up to the north, into the Panhandle, up to like toward Oklahoma. I mean, you like with kids, you did this.
Yep. The day before the first day of school, I was driving and going to campaign events, and I still got home at 2:00 in the morning, and they went to school the next day.
Right.
First day of school.
Right. So you doing it as a congressional candidate, I think would have a simpler time of it.
Probably.
But don't do it as a Democrat because they're not going to let you do it. You can't do it as a Democrat. They're not going to let you do it.
Well, I'm stubborn.
They'll have 11 candidates. Like they did last time. Yeah. They'll dig up the same fucking corpses they did the last time. Like they'll get goddamn what's his face? Tip O'Neill to show up. He's been dead 30 years. They'll get him to show up and they'll embalm him and fill him full of fluid and have him run against you. You had what was that guy? That guy West, the old black guy?
Royce West.
Royce West. He was like 100 years old. And then that other fucking loser, the white guy from Houston. I think he was a congressman in the 80s or something, and they trudged his ass out. And then they got the two fake Latina chicks who couldn't even speak Spanish, to say they were Latina. It was a joke. And then they finally got MJ Hegar to get the nomination. Are you kidding me? That's like Michael Dukakis in 88. Oh yeah, I'm going to say hi to my kids because you got nothing else to say about policy or why the fuck you sued the United States government for the right to bomb black and brown people. Yeah. Yep. And when she goes on shows like Pod Save America and The Rabble, which I listened to, by the way, to do my homework, drove me fucking crazy. And then, by the way, you kicked The Rabble's ass, which I'm proud of you for.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I don't like getting pushed around.
Well, no. And they were trying to give you these softball questions, which you refused, which I thought was awesome because you came back hard. Whereas they just asked MJ Hegar all these dipshit questions. And that's amazing. You were in the war. And then she would tell her thing. Well, didn't you? Why did it dawn on you to ask her why she thought it was a good idea to go bomb black and brown people for no reason in the first place, to steal their resources and enslave their workforce?
I'd like to know why no one asked me about my time of being a baseball coach and breastfeeding my newborn in the dugout. I'd like to know why I wasn't asked about the Violence Against Women Act and how it impacted me in my own domestic abuse situation. I'd like to know why they continue to ignore and erase the work of people who are doing the work on the ground that are specifically women of color to capitulate to this white supremacy ideology and just giving fluff pieces out to people like MJ Hegar, who proudly touted around the record of war and fighting for people's rights, especially women's rights, to go and bomb other countries.
Right.
This is not okay, but it's not okay. I digress.
No, you make your point. And on that note, we're going to end the show because I went a little long today. And that's my fault because I've been drinking. Folks, my guest was Sema Hernandez. And again, she's run for Senate twice in the state of Texas. And you will not hear the last of her because I promise you, she's a sharp human being who has a good heart. And I hope to fucking Christ she does not run as a Democrat. But that's just me. And
Miracles happen.
Miracles happen. I don't walk on water, so there's that. Folks, if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. Sleep tight. Go to thebittertruth.info and help the show out and all of that kind of crap, and we appreciate you. Have a good night. Appreciate you.